but people flood there, which wouldn't always necessarily happen with an expansion.
There was always these interchanges. I mean, among indigenous groups, the most famous healers are always the healers in the other group. You know, they also have this rule of distance, of course, the othering. You know, you need the other. You know, the magical powers are always in the other. You know, we know very much, but there's these people deeper in the forest, and they're
right.
And this is actually a circle. You know, it's a great story that the anthropologist Tausi tells, and he starts in the Colombian coast, and they tell him with the Afro-descendant communities, and they tell him, oh, we know some stuff here, but of course the Indians in the jungle, they really know. So he goes into the jungle and they say, oh, well, we know some stuff, but deeper in, there's another group that really knows this stuff. And he just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper until eventually he gets to this group, and they tell him, yes, of course, we know a lot here, but you know, in the coast, there's these African people, and they have the real... Right, so that is also happening, right? You need the other, and this has always happened for it to sort of, you know, magic and sort of, you know, special things. You know, they never happen in your family, right? They're always somewhere else. This is just a human. You know, this is sort of like a human. The grass is always greener.
Unless you're a scientist or a priest.
But then you cast that into the past very often. It's like, no, it's the early Christians that really did this right, or the future. It's like, no, we don't know, but in the future, science will know much more. So if you look at sort of the uses of ayahuasca that are surviving today, from the most traditional, you know, communities in the Valpes, in Colombia, etc., that still do Yurupari dances, and they basically brew cold ayahuasca vine by itself, together with a bunch of other things, and they do the sort of, you know, ritual dances with trumpets and feathers, and you know, where sort of mythological stories get retold, you know, according to a sort of ecological calendar that goes over there. Things are very much having to do with relationships with animal spirits, relationships with hunting spirits, and sort of having, you know, things like, you know, making sure that survival, you know. And then as things get, indigenous groups get sort of, they lose the sense of identity, and they begin to live in the riversides, and then they begin, you know, colonization happens, and they begin to live in things closer to cities. Then this sort of curandero thing arrives, where, you know, the slowly the feeling of ethnic identity is lost, but not the blowing of tobacco, the drinking of ayahuasca. But now it's not something that has to do with sort of so much with politics or consensus or identity, but with healing, strictly with healing, and it becomes folk medicine. And then the Brazilian churches come, and it turns into a sacrament. And then now the psychotherapists come, and it turns into like a psychotherapeutic tool, right, for analysis. So if you look at these things from bad luck hunting all the way to psychotherapeutic tool, then it seems that the uses of ayahuasca keep changing. But if you take a wider sort of look, then you realize that actually there's a constant, and it's that it always serves as a sort of adaptogen. It takes the role of helping humans figure out how to live in their circumstances with their conditions and their problems. So in those, you know, very traditional groups, you know, hunting and the relationship with the powers are very important. And for us, you know, we're all sort of lost in these sort of things about who am I and what do I want to do, and, you know, what is my trauma and what is blocking me and whatever. Very, very psychological. So there's two things that are always happening there. One is that it expands, and the other is that it serves always this function, and this function changes in different cultures. The needs of the culture change, but the function is the same. It has to do with how should I live. When the psychedelics get medicalized, you know, like they're doing now, and they say, okay, this is a great medicine for PTSD, or, you know, treatment-resistant depression, etc., which is, you know, a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing that people will have access to these, and they're very promising tools. But it's also a sort of an amputation of something that is much wider, because you just say, well, this is just a medicine, or this is a medicine, but which is a way of saying this is just a medicine. But the thing is, it's never been just a medicine. No, not historically, not when you look at other things, and not even when you look at people drinking ayahuasca today. I mean, Westerners, most of these people don't have a medical diagnosis, and they never will. They're not ill in the sense that our doctors would prescribe something to them. They're dealing with other issues, existential issues, meaning, self-knowledge. And the sad part of this is that there could be, sort of the sad end of this would be if they would just sort of amputate this, because the only people in our societies who can handle medicines are medical doctors. So then it's great that there will be psychedelic medicines, but would this mean that only medical doctors?
The need to have the relevant condition in order to use it, which I think will establish PTSD and depression and all of these conditions even more so as the things people have than they already are, because people will need to fit the criteria to have the cures.
I think change needs to happen at like the earliest level of education, of getting people to think more contextually and getting people to recategorize and actually.
And I wonder if there's a single sort of prescription medicine in history that has gone from prescription medicine to something that anybody can have. I don't think doctors let go of their.
Has Viagra not done that?
Can you just buy Viagra though?
You can in the UK now. I think because we've got a bit in our cannabis report in my old organisation, the Conservative Drug Policy Reform Group, about hoping that cannabis could potentially follow the path of ayahuasca, and that's how the adult use. Viagra, very, very bad mix up there. And yeah, hoping that cannabis could follow the path of Viagra and be something where the adult use market emerges out of everyone just being so desperate to buy it that it eventually made sense to just give it to them. But I don't know if that's realistic, but Viagra was very much drawn in as the one to compare it with.
It's a good comparison, because there's very few, most people really, psychiatrists are not. I don't think psychiatrists are used to people being interested in their drugs outside of the context of psychiatry. Like nobody cares about I'm gonna try an antipsychotic to see what happens, or an antidepressant, or sort of like or lithium, or any of these. So generally speaking, the society at large has no interest in psychiatric drugs whatsoever. Outside of and even inside of. But these things, people are going to be there's many people that will want to take them that are not, that don't have a diagnosis. So, how are they going to handle that is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It really is.